Welcome to the Personal Pension Radio Podcast, where it's all about helping you complete your financial journey to retirement. Discover time-tested strategies and get unconventional insights into wealth building and retirement that actually work. Break away from the herd and go for the retirement you dream of. And now, here's your host, the income engineer, Kraig Strom.
All right, back on Personal Pension Radio. Thank you once again for downloading this episode. I really appreciate all the support. I love the feedback. I love the reviews on iTunes. If you haven't left a review and you have found some good value out of the podcast or inspiration, motivation, perspiration, whatever it is, please go to iTunes and leave a review there. The iTunes algorithm, I'm told, likes reviews. So the more reviews, the better. Now, you heard the intro. I am the income engineer broadcasting from the Personal Pension Studio Workshop here in Southern California. New to the show, I am a woodworker. I literally broadcast from my wood shop in the backyard here in Southern California. My mission, my passion is the retirement income conversation. I love all things about financial planning. I love to talk about tax planning and tax savings and investments and true diversification. All of those things, I love it. But the real specialty, the real heart of this show and my practice is the conversation that is often missed. In many cases, mainstream financial advice does not prepare people for retirement income. The economics of retirement income are extremely different from retirement accumulation. So that's my passion, to deliver that retirement dream that Wall Street has been promising all these years. But unfortunately, until you pull back the curtain on this financial advice that's been out there, it's only half right. Until you really get to look behind the scenes and talk to someone like me, you just don't know what you're missing. You don't know what you're headed for. If you want to know what your retirement picture looks like on your current path and what it could look like with the income engineer on your side, send me an email, Kraig with a K at kraigstrom.com, and we can connect. I work with folks all over the country. Thanks to the miracles and wonders of technology, the world is a very small place nowadays. Now, I want to jump in. Today, I've got a couple of things that just popped out as I'm thinking about preparing for this show. I go through my daily events, my calendar, I go through the news, I go through all these various things, and just certain things just jump out at me because I am truly fighting that conventional wisdom about retirement planning and the bad advice from just the financial community in general, because optimizing retirement income does not happen with a product. It doesn't happen with investments or life insurance or real estate or annuities or 401ks. None of these things by themselves will actually allow you to optimize your retirement income. You've got to have an integrated approach. You've got to be thinking outside the proverbial retirement planning box so that you can ask the questions, or at least know that you should be asking these questions. Now, before I jump in, as always, my disclosure, my little disclosure before the long disclosure. I am not an attorney. I am not a CPA. I am a certified financial planner professional. All that being said, and as qualified as I think I am, please don't act on things that you hear on this show as if you're hearing advice for you and your specific situation. Please, especially, please do not act on things that you hear from financial entertainers on radio, TV, or podcasts. Financial entertainers are people who are not licensed. They have no oversight, no regulatory monitoring. They truly have no business giving out financial advice. Meet with a qualified financial planner before you ultimately act on things. Qualified financial planner is going to live by a code of ethics, integrity, objectivity, competence, fairness, confidentiality, professionalism, and they're going to have regulatory oversight. Okay? So let me jump in with deal of the week. I do have a deal of the week. And it's going to sound like an unusual one, but the deal of the week, as I was thinking about this segment, is my next Porsche. My next Porsche is the deal of the week. Yes. So last week, I flew back to North Carolina on my airline miles. So for those of you thinking, well, that doesn't sound very frugal or thrifty. Well, if you know me, I use my Southwest Airline Miles credit card to buy everything I possibly can because we use those airline miles to travel for free, air quotes, for free, right? And I didn't pay for the flight, the ticket. Now, I use Wi-Fi on board so that I could work from coast to coast. I was able to still work and be productive and get all of my correspondence and all of the things done. I worked on my presentation that's coming up this week. I was very productive on the trip because I just don't like the idea of idle time for 5 hours. So flew back to North Carolina and picked up a used, keep in mind, my new used Porsche. And I got a fantastic deal on it because this car is back in North Carolina. It's just towards the tail end of winter. Nobody's in the East Coast is really buying cars. So I was able to negotiate a very good deal, really good deal on a car that sold new for $90,000+, nearly $100,000 for this same car, brand new in 2008. And I'm able to get in there and get the car for a phenomenal deal. Really great. Now, once I got there, I drove from North Carolina on the Smoky Mountain Parkway, Smoky Mountain Expressway, and through the Blue Ridge Mountains to New Orleans. I had an amazing drive. Got a fantastic deal on the car. The car was awesome. Had not an issue whatsoever. I just loved it right away and all the way there. Just loved it. And I was able to spend a day. Now, some of you might say, well, why did you only spend one day in New Orleans? Well, that's all I really needed. Now, I knew that New Orleans would be one or the other. I would like it or I would not like it. I wasn't going to plan much of a long stay. And I'm glad that I had one day. I checked the box, been to New Orleans, and I had my Cajun food. I had my beignet, and I hopped on a plane back to California, airline miles again, and a delivery driver picked up the car and will drive it the rest of the way because I didn't want to drive all the way back to California. That would be a very unproductive thing for my brain. I can't handle that. I'd love it, I suppose, but it'd be an extra 3 or 4 days of driving, and I wouldn't be able to be productive and work and stay on track with other things. Now, that car is worth considerably more than what I paid for it in North Carolina. It's worth considerably more in California. So when it gets back here to California, I'll give it a little TLC and I'll give it a bath and, take care of a few things that I saw that I could, have fun and enjoy fixing up or, doing a nice wax job and things like that. And then I'll actually put that car up for sale through my car dealership. I have that car dealership as a hobby. And if you want, you can see pictures of my road trip on my Facebook page. And that's my deal of the week. Now, let's jump in. The first segment in my show is Watch Your Step. Last week, I talked about the idea that overall rate of return on a 401k, for example, is about what you do with the investments in the 401k for sure, but also what you do with the tax savings. The overall rate of return on any investment that gives you a tax benefit should be considered in total, right? So if you invest in something that gives you a tax benefit, meaning that you did not send money to the government, what did you do with that money that you did not send to the government? Did you also invest that money? And then what's the rate of return on that money that you were able to invest because of that other tax savings? Go back and listen to the details on that if you want to catch up on the overall rate of return is a truly important thing that you need to know. Now, this week, more bad advice from financial entertainers. Now, you might imagine on a long drive, I got to listen to a lot of financial entertainer podcasts. So I listen to a lot of podcasts, and I'm listening to one of my financial entertainer podcasts, and The question was to this person who, by the way, financial entertainer, reminder, not licensed to practice as a financial planner in any way, shape, or form, and yet they're giving out advice. Financial advice on really important topics. So here was the question. I'm about to lose my job, and I'm wondering if I should max out my 401k before I leave. Now, this guy that called in explained that he does have a severance package, he's got a bonus coming, but he still doesn't actually have a replacement job. He says the job market's good and he feels confident that he'll be able to get another job, but he doesn't actually have another job lined up. So this on-air financial entertainer, with all that, still says, yes, max out your 401k before you get fired. What are you talking about? It's one of those moments where I'm racing down the freeway, having a great drive, and then I just yell at the radio, no! This guy has a severance package and a bonus coming. That's good. That'll tie him over. That'll hold him over, right? But why would you want to put any more money into an illiquid account? Now, yes, you can draw money back out of a 401k with penalties, right? But why would you ever want to put money into a technically illiquid account, but for the penalties, that is at or near the top of its investment cycle on the eve of losing your job? Insanity, okay? Financial entertainers should not be giving out financial advice. I can't change that. They operate under First Amendment, freedom of speech, and for some reason, the SEC and all the other regulators, they don't go after financial entertainers who definitely give out financial advice on the radio. Now, my advice? No, do not invest in the 401k before you lose your job. Keep the money liquid in the bank. When you get your new job, now you're in a secure position. Now you can start thinking about putting that money into other investments and other 401ks, right? Remember that a Wall Street advisor's answer to retirement is almost always the same. Yes, invest more money. Invest, invest, invest. It's the same, right? And then finally, in the watch your step category, I gotta keep reminding people, because it's amazing that I keep meeting people that don't do this. Freeze your credit. Freeze your credit. Remember, we're still living through the Equifax, let me get my tongue straight, data breach from 2017. Equifax, one of the largest credit reporting bureaus on the planet, lost millions and millions of account data, or of millions and millions of people's data was lost to hackers. Okay? Freeze your credit, folks. It is the ultimate way to make sure that people can't go rent an apartment, open up a store credit card, buy a house. I mean, you name it. They can't really do anything with your credit or your identity if they can't access the credit that your Social Security will give them. Freeze your credit. It costs about $20. It's easy. You just go directly to the 3 credit bureaus. You can and don't pay someone to do it for you. You can just go do it yourself. Okay? Keep that in mind. Now, the second segment in my show is either listener questions or my personal rants about things. This is kind of my therapy section of the show. Last week, I actually had shared a simple retirement experience or experiment that had changed the destination for a couple. And they had experimented with where they want to live in retirement. And they actually picked up, disconnected, and went and lived in one of those places that they had thought about. If you are thinking about retirement and where you want to be in retirement, please go back and listen to the last episode and listen to what this couple did. And maybe you'll take some inspiration away from that, okay? Take some inspiration away from that and go from there, right? I did something similar where I pay attention this way. When I did my road trip to pick up my car, right? I drove from North Carolina to New Orleans. Nolans, and I went through, Alabama and Mississippi, and of course North Carolina, and I went through a lot of different territory, right? And I've never seen these places before, and it gave me a great opportunity to apply my own advice. To pay close attention. Here's what I pay attention to. Just as a note, this is me, I'm a car guy. I pay close attention to the quality of the roads that are in a city or in a state, in a town. I pay attention to the quality of the roads, right? Which gives me some indication about how does the government in that particular city or municipality, how does the government operate when it comes to taking care of the fundamentals? What government is supposed to do, which is the infrastructure of the town or city or whatever, right? So I paid close attention to that. And I also talk about the locals, right? I talk to the locals and kind of get a feel from them on what their happiness quotient is. Are these folks happy? Do they look happy? Are they engaging? Do they look, like they're enjoying where they live, right? So I pay close attention when I go to different places in the country, and I watch for things like that. Okay, FYI, just if I were going to base a retirement decision on just the quality of the roads, there is no way in the world you could ever convince me to retire in New Orleans. No way whatsoever. It did not matter if I was in a poor section of town, an old section of town, or as I did driving through some of the richest parts of New Orleans. The roads were horrible. Absolutely just deplorable, to take a little trip back into last year's politics. Deplorable. Telling me that the municipalities there are spending tax dollars on something else. Clearly, they are not spending it on taking care of the people who really live there and drive on the roads. Wow, pretty bad. Now, this week, this question came up, and I'll take it on. It says, Kraig, you seem to have a lot going on. How do you manage to keep so many balls in the air? That's very good. I cannot juggle, by the way. How do you manage to keep so many balls in the air? And yes, I do sound like I've got a lot of things going on. I got a car show, the car dealership. I got this business. I do my financial planning, and I do woodworking, right? And I am very active, right? Great, very, very good question. In the not so distant past, right, I was easily distracted, and I had too many side projects going on. And I've realized that, and I have cut back on my, quote, extra stuff, and I now focus on really three primary areas. I focus on my financial planning business, which of course this podcast is part of, and my two hobbies, cars and woodworking. So those are my three things. Now, my car hobby is still very time consuming. So how do I manage to be so active and productive in my financial planning business and still have time to be able to enjoy the cars and the woodworking? And the answer is virtual assistants. I have a team of talented assistants that work with me around the world. They are remote, some in the U.S., my daughter being one of them, and several in the Philippines, Nigeria, India, Poland. I have people on my team that I call on when I need things that are all around the world. Okay, an example of my podcast I'll use this as a great just to tell the story about how my podcast works. In the past, podcast production was a bit of a pain in the butt for me, that I would record the podcast, 20, 30, 40 minutes, and then I would have to download that off my iPad, get it into the software, adjust it, do various things to it, then upload that to my podcast location. I have to give it a description, and then I'd have to get it out to iTunes. And it was just, there was actually quite a bit of additional time that went into the production, right? So now, here's how it works. I record it, And I have software that allows me to do the intro and the outro very easily on my iPad. I don't have to do any of that work. That was very nice. It was a $10 piece of software, totally worth it. When I'm done with this podcast, I will share the raw audio file with my assistant in Nigeria. I've worked with this gentleman for a long time, and I'll share the file with him. And he will go through and edit it. He'll level the audio. He'll get it, converted into an MP3 format. It'll be then uploaded and shared to my podcast site, and boom, it'll head out to the iTunes world to all 5 people who listen. Okay, just kidding. There's a whole lot more than 5. Now, at least 10. Now, from there, my assistant in the Philippines, she picks up the audio from iTunes and transcribes the entire episode. Transcription done. Then she prepares the content to be reviewed by my office that reviews all of my shows. Remember, I am a licensed and regulated and monitored financial planner. I go by the rules. So all of my content is monitored to make sure that I haven't said anything that's outside the rails of the established, rules, okay? Then she sends me the transcripts after it's all been approved. She also helps me get it published out to YouTube. She publishes it out to other podcast delivery systems. She posts it on my LinkedIn. She posts it on my Facebook. Amazing. All that happens after I'm done recording it, and I rarely ever touch anything after it's been recorded. So, virtual assistants is the answer, right? Think about this. How can you apply this in your own life, right? There's got to be, in most people's lives, there are time-consuming things that they end up doing that might just be simple tasks that they could actually go and find a remote virtual assistant for a very affordable rate. By the way, my virtual assistants are really affordable. I pay them well compared to where they live in the world. But compared to the United States and here in California, I pay a fraction of what it would cost me to do it here with a local person in California. I get so much more productivity out of my virtual team. It's just awesome. So try it out. If you want to wow someone, for example, go try it. Here's a great one. I've given this piece of advice to people before. You want to wow a friend or someone you haven't seen in a long time. Get someone to do a custom greeting card for you. You can go to Fiverr.com and you could find somebody to do a custom picture for a greeting card. Totally easy, piece of cake. And it'll cost you maybe $10 or $15. It's so easy, right? If you want to know more about it, please send me an email, Kraig@kraigstrom.com, and write virtual in the subject line. I'm happy to send you back. I teach a class for CEOs on virtual assistants and how to use VAs and virtual assistants in their business. And I'm happy to send you back my Microsoft Word document. It has links to a tutorial, a whole list of things that you can do with virtual assistants that I compiled from other sources. It's great. If you want it, please send me an email, Kraig with a K @kraigstrom.com, and I am happy to send that to you. Okay? Now, that's going to wrap it up for today. Please don't forget, take action. If you don't know what your current path for retirement income is, you've got to find out. I'm telling you, find out sooner than later. Get in touch with me, Kraig@kraigstrom.com, and we'll schedule an actual face-to-face web meeting so we can meet. Doesn't matter where you are in the country, we can have a conversation, and I'll show you a retirement income analysis so you can see what your current path looks like, and if there's a way that I can help you improve the destination so that you'll have more income in retirement, that's what I get excited about. Definitely take action, get that retirement income analysis done, and I'll talk to you again real soon. Please don't forget, get over to iTunes, leave a review if you are so compelled. Truly appreciate it. Talk to you again soon.
listening to the Personal Pension Radio podcast. If you missed anything during the show, that's okay. We took the notes for you. Check the show notes for links, offers, and a full transcript. And don't forget to head over to personalpensionradio.com and download your free retirement income report. While you are there, we would appreciate some iTunes love. Please leave us a fantastic rating on iTunes by going to personalpensionradio.com/iTunes. Thanks again for listening.
Now for the disclosure. Information presented is for educational purposes only and is not intended for solicitation, sale or purchase of any security or financial product. Be sure to first consult with a qualified financial advisor and your tax professional before implementing any strategy discussed here. The term personal pension refers to a marketing name designed to educate future retirees and retirees about the economic principles behind creating their own pension-like income. The term personal pension is not intended to be confused with a defined benefit pension plan offered by an employer or by a government entity.